Are you good at explaining this one if we get to it? Okay. Then I can read the, I'll even read this in because it's so short. I've been practicing my whereas all day.
You did fine last time when you had the letter.
That's true. I wrote that letter.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah. You're like, you know, that stuff.
You
recovered.
All right.
We're live, gentlemen. John, Mike, and Doug.
I don't shut it up. That's our start. I have now. Good. When did you look at these plans?
I finished a little after.
As I asked him, I knew there's gonna be some more. I didn't see any. But,
Oh, he actually had two, you know what? I was wondering why he had two of those left. I took them off.
There we go.
And what was in,
They were fine.
what was in those two?
A little bit of the general and a little bit of the highway stuff.
It's the 3,000 in those two?
No,
Let's kick
it was in the latter.
I seen everything.
Well, so we start the meeting. We have one change in the agenda. We're moving the rezoning meeting. We had some miscommunication on the public notice requirements. We're moving that to our second meeting on June 18th, the 6 PM meeting. That give everybody a chance, get more citizens involved. They're interested in this particular issue. Ought to be pretty interesting on the thing. So for that, let's call a meeting to order.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice, for all.
Any addition or changes to the agenda? Good. Full minutes and claims.
So I'll make a motion to approve the minutes, but I need to make a separate motion for the claims.
Okay. Second motion on minutes.
A second motion on the minutes.
Okay.
Any discussion?
Discussion.
Anything? I don't have anything.
Okay, roll call, Ron,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Thank you. So moving on to the second motion with regards to the claims. As I was going through the reviewing the claims this afternoon, I noticed that there was a deviation or an issue with regards to one of the highway claims on the stone and aggregate. The account was 1176. The account title is 4044 or 40400.051, which is stone and aggregate. The claim was for $3,000 more than it needed to be. So there was just some different disconnect back and forth between the back side of the claim and the front side of the claim. So I'm making a motion to approve the claims contingent upon the modification necessary to adjust for this $3,000.
One second.
Kevin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Tim, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ron, how do you
Yes.
vote?
And next item of business is the ordinance approving the job description. This is our second reading. Let me summarize it. Kind of covered it last meeting also. What we're doing is restructuring the salary ordinance. And to do that, we had to restructure all the job descriptions in the county. And when it comes to that, the commissioners own the job descriptions. The council owns the classification of the jobs, and that links to salary. So we've got the have a resolution, council has a resolution. When they approve it, it goes to the auditor who approves the salary ordinance. So it's all kind of connected. And then when we make changes to the job descriptions, we also have to update the personnel manual. We're in the process of doing that. It's going to take a significant amount of rewrite. And we work with departments and we're identifying those kind of weaknesses and then making the needed changes we need to make. So a lot going on this particular one. At that point, we read it into the record last meeting. So I'll open up to discussion.
I don't have anything to cover right now.
Okay, Ron, anything? Audience, any? Yes.
Yes, Christina McElroy here. So where are we getting our sources for actual job descriptions? Like who is writing the job descriptions and reviewing those? Like, are we accessing like the gateway system to see what positions people were holding prior to us making changes?
Okay. The county council contracted with Wagner, Irwin, Shealy to do those. So they're submitted by the departments. They work with the coordinator, WIS, we call it. She makes the changes and brings them back. And there's a there's a loop on that one. We found there's some discrepancies, on some of those. They're making changes, but when it comes to salary, position descriptions, job descriptions, we approve them, but when you make the changes or need to make changes, that's a routine thing. We make an amendment to those. We probably make at least about 3 or 4 years, if not more on job descriptions. So it's not unusual to change something after you approve it. It's just part of the process as things change.
But you're saying are the departments giving that information to WIS?
Correct, they
How
are.
does the department get that information? Are they accessing Gateway? Because what I'm finding is, Gateway, and on the payroll has, a job title for the particular person that is a county employee. But county employees are being presented with job descriptions that don't match what they've been doing. And when they bring that to the attention of department heads, they're being told that they're not allowed to review the document outside of the office and being told that they have to sign it before they can leave the office. And then what they have in their possession in those departments don't match the information on Gateway, and they don't match the information in the auditor's office.
Well, it's not exactly, they're not gonna be at Gateway where we modified those. It's gonna be different. They're gonna be uploaded to Gateway. But we'll go through that review process and the auditor's kind of the central point of these kinds of things. So any kind of changes or deviations we need to make, we'll make. But
So if an employee has been presented with the incorrect job description, for example, if you have been their crew leader for 6+ years and that's reflected on your pay stub, I think it's 11H is the job title. And then you're presented with a bridge crew leader, but you've never worked the bridge crew. Do you sign the form? Do you bring that to the commissioner's attention? Do you bring that to the department heads? Well, it has been brought to the department heads and they've just been told to sign it. So that's my concern is, we only have so many positions. And what happens when we have 2 bridge crew leaders, too many operators, not enough laborers? Like what happens in that case? I know I was at the 2 o'clock meeting, the last one, and I don't know who the female was before that came up, but she had expressed some concerns. And I did watch the council meeting, and I understand that they were just reading the title for the second reading, but it was disclosed at that last meeting that there were some discrepancies, some issues with that. So my fear is we're gonna have a yes, yes, no, like we usually do. And so I'm just wondering, are we actually reading all of these, or are we just signing off on them?
reading what? You mean reading the
The
100
job description.
plus job descriptions?
Absolutely, that's your job.
Okay, that's the
Not
department
just the
level
department.
jobs. And then if there's issues, it'll roll up and we need to make changes, we'll make changes.
So what I'm asking is, if at the department level, they are presenting the incorrect job description to someone that has never worked that job description, whom do they bring that to their attention? Your attention, if the department head does not act on that? Whose attention do they bring that to? Because I'm bringing it to your attention now.
How are you,
But-
how are you defining an incorrect job description?
A dirt crew leader being forced to sign a bridge crew leader job description and note that that's their job description.
Okay,
I mean, it's
forced sign.
different equipment. Well, I could go into more details, but there's been 3 different job descriptions presented in maybe a 6-month period. So it's a little confusing for, county employees, like, are we just approving things, or, should we wait and let it get straightened out rather than, it just seems
So-
really messy right now.
So I'm going to clarify for you from this process standpoint. All of the department heads and elected officials went through those job descriptions themselves. They actually engaged in some of the departments with the actual employees themselves.
So-
No, so
Not all.
no, and it's not required because the job description is meant to fill what is needed to do the job that they have. It's not typically tailored around a person, it's typically tailored around responsibility.
Yes, but Kevin, we have we have a new superintendent and we have employees that have worked for the county for 22 years
Yes.
doing the same job, being presented job descriptions that aren't what they've been doing for 22 years. So are you telling me that a new superintendent that lives out of the county that
Okay.
is not familiar with what everyone's role is sound to do that and make that kind of decision?
So the superintendent's responsibility is to define what his resources and what's needed on those resources. It is. Okay. So I don't understand the incident where you're saying that is an inaccurate or incorrect job description. So he goes through and defines what he needs for crew leaders. He goes through and decides.
Well, it was mailed a copy. We were mailed a copy to our home of the job description because we requested it and it doesn't match the title under Gateway that individual has worked for the past 6 years.
But it will you do Gateway.
Yeah, when I put it back in.
So are you saying there'll be a new job description? Cause isn't there a different?
Uploaded once they're finished.
And
With
they
their
will
new
be,
Pay scale.
and they will be accessible at the auditor's office?
Yes.
Because we're supposed to have personnel files accessible and, you know, we requested some copies of
Employees are
that.
allowed a personnel file.
Correct.
Not people who aren't employees of the county.
Yeah, I have an email from an actual employee to, Mr. Burton requesting copies out of their personnel file from their personnel.
We're getting off track on this thing, Christine. We're getting off track. We've got a process in place. We're following the process. The auditor's kind of the central hub, goes out to the department heads. They review them, give them back on the changes, goes to WIS. We get the pack. We've reviewed all those. And then if there's changes after that, or there's issues there, we'll deal with it. And then once they're
Is there a
finalized,
timeline for dealing with it?
no, and once they're finalized, we upload them up to Gateway.
Address some of this stuff.
Please.
He's even on there.
Mike, are you on?
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you say the word mic there. I couldn't tell what the first word was. I'm sorry, what'd you ask?
Addressing some of this stuff with,
Speaking about other people's.
yeah, with,
Like clarifying,
with getting other people's, personnel files when they're not that person.
that's not what I said. I said
You
that.
said you had an email.
I said a county employee sent an email.
Yeah, and that's.
From their personal email with their personal name and requested information from their personnel file. And that request was made March 19th. What is today? May 21st. And they have not been given that information. What is the timeline when an employee asks for information from their personnel file for them to get access to it?
If the
More than
employee
60
asked
days?
for it,
They did, and I can give you proof.
not with no email. An email can be hacked that quick. I don't care
So
who you say.
you want something written in person,
I
sent
want to
via
see that
certified
person.
mail
That person has to be there and present.
at the auditor's office
More than likely at his
or
supervisor,
his or her?
his or her supervisors.
So if they ask in person and get a 10-day suspension for asking a question.
We
then-
can't.
Okay, we're getting off track here, Christine. We're getting off track. But
Way off.
we listen to your concerns. We take.
Hear my concerns, because we have a deadline of July 11th to get some answers before it's escalated to the state level.
Thank you for bringing it.
You've been invited.
Thank you. Okay. Ordinance 2025-05-07-000, motion for the second reading.
Shake your head.
I'll make a motion that we approve the job descriptions as stated in the document we have in front of us.
Is there a second?
Hearing none.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call vote. Tim, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ron, how do you vote?
No.
Kevin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay. Next issue, the county Title VI, the ADA resolution. Teresa, you want to brief on that?
So we don't usually go after federal grants. We did in the instance for Elkinsville Bridge. In doing so, we discovered that our Title VI, which is an non-discrimination implementation plan had not been revised or submitted to the feds for several years. So we revised that. We also found out with the FEMA, with the devastation we've had, that this is also a document that FEMA has also requested of us to have. So now we have a process in place to update it every year. And now that opens up our avenue to apply for federal grants. So this involves several different places in the county. I have to speak with CRC. They use this document. They are part of this. The judge is part of this. If somebody comes in and they can't speak English and they need help, that I spoke with them to make sure that everything was updated. And we revised it, and that's what this is.
Okay.
It's very simple, very, very easy read.
Yeah, right to it. What was the previous version? It's a little outdated.
2017.
Okay, yeah. Okay,
So they've stopped us. We can't, they've stopped the grant right now until we get this turned in. We're kind of dead in the water.
okay. So let me read it into records, resolution number 2025-05-21-000. A resolution to adopt a new version of Title VI Non-Discrimination Implementation Plan and Policy. Whereas Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, as amended, prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, or national origin in programs and activities receiving federal financial assistance. Whereas Broward County requires its employees to comply with all federal laws, including Title VI. Whereas Broward County provides all employees with the Title VI Non-Discrimination Implementation Plan and Policy, the policy they must follow. And whereas the Board of Commissioners of Broward County, Indiana have found it necessary to replace the 2017 version of the policy with a more up-to-date version in order to comply with federal laws, including Title VI. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of Broward County, Indiana, that the revised 2017 Broward County Title VI Non-Discrimination Plan Policy shall be replaced with Exhibit A. Discussion.
I did change this so that in the future, that it's not one person who is responsible for the coordinate for the communication from the community. I made it your guys' email address. So hopefully that won't again happen to us where it's lost and then somebody
Okay.
leaving it.
Good.
One quick question, just to reassure what I believe has already been said, Mr. Moga. Mike, are you there?
Yep, I'm on.
You're good with all the wording in this. I believe we corrected some spelling and some typos, and other than that, I believe it's good to go. Do you agree?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Nope.
Okay. Motion.
I'll make a motion that we pass the resolution as read in.
I'll second.
Kevin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ron, how do you vote?
Yes.
Tim, how do you vote?
Yes. Okay, contract approval changes. Kevin, you want to touch on that one?
Yeah, so we had basically two contracts that were coming back before this meeting. One of them is the Bridge 111 Country Club Road. Due to urgency of schedule and keeping that project on track, we went through the exercise of signing that contract already, as it was stated and approved in the bid, the last process with regards to the bid. So this is just a public acknowledgement that that contract has been signed and has been registered, and it is en route to fill the requirements at NDOT with regards to CCMG. The second contract before us tonight is the contract for the JLRTU replacement on the law enforcement center. That contract has been reviewed by Mr. Moga. We've gone through that. That was, again, the contract that was awarded or that came with the bid that we awarded in the prior meeting. There is one change or an amendment that I'm going to make a motion to approve this contract with, and it's a contingency. The contingency is that legislation happened earlier this year or at the end of the session that changed the retainage language regards contracts of this nature. And the retainage language is not in this contract because that bill did not pass. per legal, Mr. Moga's advice and direction and per the actual statute, that language has to be updated. So we can proceed forward with and have that language updated after the signing of this. So I'm making a motion, given the, we place a contingent on this, that we approve this contingent to language being added to that contract.
That's actually for both contracts, isn't
It is correct. Both of those are, both of those have language added to make them contingent.
it? And you said that it did pass? You said it did pass,
It did pass.
okay. And it goes into, when does that go into effect? June 1st?
July 1st.
July 1st.
So what I've been informed by Mike was that any contracts that were not completed before the July 1st date had to be or must be updated with that language.
And that's contingent that the contractors agree also,
Yes,
which there's a slim chance that they probably, that they won't. I mean,
that's correct, because the new law is written more towards their favor, more favorable towards them than the county.
okay.
Okay, so my motion is to approve the contract for the jail RTU with the contingency of updating it for the new legislation related to retainage.
I'll second.
Ron, how do you vote?
Yes.
Kevin, how do you vote?
Yes,
Tim, how do you vote?
Yes. Takes us down to county office department reports. Teresa, need to add?
I just want to remind everybody that we are closed Monday for Memorial Day, and my other thing was the, so that was my weekend.
Sandra, you doing the highway department update?
I am. Eric had a family event here.
Okay.
So, do you guys have any questions with the monthly update that we shared with you?
so the only thing I'm just concerned might be a good idea, and I also, it might be a good idea since Chad is here if we can, to give kind of an update from the highway department as far as how cleanup's going related to the tornado that happened in Southern Brown.
Yeah, so it's kept our guys very busy. We have had some overtime expenditures. Luckily, it wasn't quite as bad as the flooding that we recently went through. So I think all of the roads are cleaned up as of now. There might be a little bit of chipping left on the sides of the road in some spots, but the major cleanup is done. We didn't have to haul gravel to the roads because it didn't wash away like before. We didn't use any culverts, just trees and limbs, and for the most part. With that, we will go back through and grade county roads because some of the trees did tear up the county roads when they fell on the gravel parts. So we will start on those just as soon as we can. We were able to submit our FEMA for the past storms this week. We've got all of our information submitted, so hopefully Tad can give us an update and we'll know more about it.
Right, and when you're talking about the FEMA, we're talking about the flooding damage.
Flooding damage.
Last storm, correct?
Correct.
And I think if I'm not mistaken, we got all of the information submitted necessary in order to fulfill the FEMA obligations.
Except our insurance liability, they're gonna come back and tell us exactly what they want on that end, but yes.
Okay. All right. So Chad, can you come up and give us a heads up and maybe share some important information about those that might be impacted?
Saw the Channel 8 covered us.
Oh, we probably had about, I think a dozen media requests, and if you search long enough, you'll find us mentioned in the New York Times.
Oh, I bet.
Thankfully, they don't have much to report, right? So we did receive some significant damage, but as far as injuries to persons, I'll just put that up front. We only had 4 injuries during this event, so I think that's good news to report, 4 non-life-threatening events. But just to recap, to touch on the FEMA visit, it's great to be hosting FEMA while you're actively dealing with another tornado. So I think they get the point. But our meeting with FEMA went very well on our declaration that led from the 30th to the 19th of April for that event. I'm encouraged by some information I've already gotten back. They're very pleased with the amount of detail and work that folks have done to get ready, to include the town of Nashville, Sandy and her folks preparing that, and then Mark with the park. So we should hope to have some news about that. They're going to package that for the state, and that'll be presented to the president. I think they said the 28th is when they hope to give him the Indiana declaration for his potential signing. So we should know soon. Regarding the tornado, so around, well, a couple days before the event, we knew that we were looking forward to some severe weather. It grew from about a 2 out of 5 risk for severe weather to a 4 out of 5. When they do that, we go ahead and we activate the Emergency Operations Center. I did that at 5 and notified the state that we were ready for that event, and let you all know that I was sitting over there. And then we had, just before, I would say around 7 o'clock, we had quite a lightning storm develop around Pikes Peak. So that's pretty significant that at that time, we were already seeing tornado activity west of us in Monroe County. I believe they had the one tornado that went through Linton. So that lightning starts to supercharge the environment here in the county. At 7:30, we received a notification from National Weather Service, Indy, for a non-radar indicated tornado. The situation above us was certainly tornadic, but it wasn't showing up on the radar. So they went ahead and sent that warning, and dispatch pushed the button on that. Around that time, that lightning storm I mentioned had struck a telephone pole in South Brown and caught it on fire. So some of our South Brown volunteers were out when that tornado warning was issued, knock on wood, and again, non-radar indicated. About that time, I got a phone call from Sam Lashley, the chief or the senior meteorologist for our area, National Weather Service, Indy, to explain that while we're not seeing us on the radar, because we're sitting looking at the radars as well, that the conditions were there, they wanted us to be safe, but we were going to have an additional tornado warning sounded, because within about 5 to 8 minutes of that warning, we would expect to see the second tornado in Monroe drag across Brown County. So at that time, we had one of our volunteer firefighters actually see the tornado. That's a pretty good way to spot the tornado. So you visually confirm the tornado, and we push the button again. We have very limited sirens. I'll talk about that in a second. So we issued the second warning, if you will. And at that point, we were expecting the second warning, extended it to 8:45 at that point, but we already had tornadic activity. Right off the bat, dispatch starts to receive the calls, and I want to explain the chaos. Initial reports are seldom accurate, but we treat every one of them like they are. So within minutes, we had a picture of about 5 to 6 flattened houses with missing people. So to those areas, dispatch begins to send the resources that we have, considering entrapment, search, the ongoing threat of more tornadic activity. So remember, I said that warning had been extended to 8:45. So they're deploying just after that damage, and we're expecting more tornadic activity. So flattened houses with missing persons. So at any given time in the county, we have 2 contract ambulances for Miami Lifeline. Both those ambulances were dispatched to those scenes, and we are immediately experiencing what? Down trees and no way to get to some of these folks. So our responders start to try and look for a way, chop down trees, and get to where we think our victims are at. Very quickly, we received notification from DNR that there's been an incident park at the Horseman's Camp. At that time, they reported 3 injuries, non-life threatening, 2 of those with head injuries. Those of you with background, if you hear the term head injury, what do you start to think? They may be okay right now, but they may not be in the next blink of an eye, right? So while they're initially non-life threatening, we're planning to go ahead and take care of them. But keep in mind, as I said, both of our ambulances have already been dispatched. So at that time, I declared a mass casualty incident. We had a very chaotic and confusing situation where we established incident command for different, areas and emergencies that are occurring. So with communications being limited, I instituted the mass casualty incident protocol so that I could begin, so like dispatch could go back and fight their fight, and I could go look for additional medical resources to bring into the community. So I started to work that process. And then it got dark, right? So we have down trees, and what gets wrapped up in the trees around here when they go down? Power lines. So now we have the additional risk to our responders that while they're chopping trees to get to our potential victims, we have energized lines out and about. So that's an additional problem. So we kind of slowed our roll, if you will, at that minute to prioritize how we were going to accomplish the rest of the evening. And in declaring a mass casualty incident supported by the commissioners, we were able to get IU Lifeline to bring in 2 additional ambulances and 2 additional crews from counties that were not impacted. So they're on their way in. And Mr. Christopher Henderson, who works for IU Lifeline, but he's our Emergency Management Advisory Council Chair, he came in to assist me in coordinating this from the Emergency Operations Center. And he began to establish, you know, if we needed to do triage at the ambulance base, if we were going to do treatment at the ambulance base, or if we needed to package that system. We have a mass casualty incident trailer that's stored at the ambulance base. What would we need to do to get that somewhere and take that somewhere? So we began that coordination. That was exemplary. I've only been here for 2 years. This is my first mass casualty incident or large incident like this. And I'll tell you that just that piece alone, the coordination by IU Lifeline, who we contract for our EMS services, was stellar. I operate what's called Community Lifelines. It's a FEMA approach to managing an incident. It's very simply looking at our community. What are the essential services that we have and what is the status of those services? Are they degraded? Are they up? So we quickly look at what's critical, what's broken, and how long is it going to take to fix it? And get us till morning, right? So for the rest of the night from 1 a.m. till probably sun up around 6:45 or so, we're anticipating more casualties. We're not able to get to some of these houses, so we have a very long night. It took the folks a little bit longer to get to some of these sites, and some of the homes we weren't able to get to until Sunday, you know, maybe even Monday. Just quickly, in the search process overnight, all of our volunteer fire departments participated in some capacity. The Sheriff's Department, Nashville Police Department, Indiana State Patrol, and DNR was handling their situation within the park. So resource-wise, we were very heavily tapped. I explained EMS, our power companies, those that serve us as a power lifeline, if you will, they were here. Duke and Jackson County RMC were largely the largest hit, and they were out all night. I'd also like to say our highway department. If you've not been following the activity of our highway department since January, mercy, they're phenomenal. They came out, they started to clear, paying attention to power lines. Again, just amazing work. And I think they worked up until yesterday. I mean, it was a lot of work out there. The worst road as far as obstruction was Bellsville Pike Road as the tornado drug across there. So first thing Saturday AM, or continued Friday, if you will, the commissioners and the auditor were sent the declaration. I wanted to just say, we don't know what the damage is. We have some injured. There's probably more to follow, but for me to bring in the state's resource and assistance from the state, we need the declaration and promptly received that and began to receive that assistance from them. With that declaration, the largest area impacted was South Brown. We still have very strange straight line wind path on the north of 46 I'll talk about. But that being said, Chief Terry Miller of the South Brown Volunteer Fire Department became the incident commander, with me serving as his Emergency Operations Center manager and his public information officer. The search went on through Saturday, making sure everybody was okay. We completed the search process. Those folks who could not get out of their driveway even for a few more days were contacted to be okay. So we terminated the mass casualty incident portion of it, and we went from our search or response efforts into recovery. I received assistance immediately. Indiana Department of Homeland Security had a few folks, Mr. Adam Reef, that he's our district coordinator. He showed up into the Emergency Operations Center and began to take things off my plate to help me out. I thought that was a great response for the state. And they began to coordinate our damage assessment planning for the next day. I cannot say enough about COAD. Does anybody know what COAD stands for? I'd really love to change that in this community. I want COAD to be as well-known as BCMC, right? Brown County Music Center. COAD is our community organizations active in disaster. It's our community-based assistance to our residents from our residents. It is a huge pillar of how we respond here in the county. It's chaired by 3 people, Vinyl from the Salvation Army, Melanie from All Things Brown County, and Kim from the YMCA. They were immediately there and available. What do we need? Do you need the shelter? Well, I would say that Kim wasn't immediately there because she was impacted by this, and we were worried about her for a little while until she was able to check in. But so we were ready to stand up a shelter. The Red Cross immediately reached out to provide resources for shelter and whatever we need. So that was a big relief to our residents who were impacted on Saturday. Sunday, we trained up damage assessment teams. They came in, learned how to go house to house, and they literally through South Brown went house to house, looking and doing an assessment, a survey on what the damage was to the homes and property. That results in 40 plus homes affected, just in the southern part. We're still going to work on the straight line wind portion now north of 46, because I understand we have some trees on houses up there as well. 5 of those houses are completely destroyed. How many of you been able to get out and take a look at the damage and stuff? Oof, mercy. So 5 houses destroyed, probably 20 to 25 of those having major damage that may result in the house not being livable at that point. So those assessments go on. Insurance companies are coming out. The path of the tornado is about 35 miles long from Monroe County. Did anybody see the picture of the post office in outside of Bloomington? If you put your finger on that and then put your other finger on Grandview Lake, it's a straight line. So I don't know if you've had a chance to see it yet, but there's already a NASA satellite image of Brown County. We have a scar now. That's, somebody said, oh, it'll heal up pretty quick. That'll be here for decades and decades and decades. So it's an unbelievable straight path of destruction. We're very blessed that we had no loss of life. But again, we do have some straight line wind damage north of 46. We are an anomaly here. But again, Mr. Sam Lashley again came out and they were on the ground for 2 days taking a look at this thing and are trying to understand the vectoring of the tornado itself. But with this, in the past 4 or 5 storms, this is the same path. The same path for 5 storms in a row. And there is always this offshoot that goes up Hoover. I don't know what you're doing up there on Hoover, but you're taking it, and it results in this very severe straight line wind effect that goes up in that direction. So we do have some damage to look at there. I'm almost done. Monday, we began volunteer coordination and donation. So every day I check in with Chief Miller, Incident Commander, ask him what his needs are and what can we take off his plate. At that point, it was meeting those in need with a lot of volunteer agencies that are coming into the county to help. We're very, very cautious in this stage. Unfortunately, vultures come in as well. So we wanted to find a way to set up a center to vet some of the organizations going in. So that's been successful. Brown County residents are very resilient and a lot of times don't like to ask for help. We're hard-headed. So we've also established a line. It's the COAD line 812-988-0001. It's a hotline for people to ask for assistance, as well as those with resources to say, I can provide this. How can I help? It is 812-988-0001. Incidentally, if you're on Everbridge and receive alerts from our warning system, it'll come up as that number. Let's see. You can also, so anybody with damage that has not already done so, we need them to call 211 to start the damage reporting process. They can also go to Indiana 211 online and start that process as well. But that hotline is open Monday through Friday, 7 to 7. That gets in a system that we're sharing with the Red Cross. The Red Cross also comes out and does a damage assessment for their portion of resources that they can provide those family members. And they also have a separate support team that comes out to look at the other material needs or support needs that a family may have. Again, for non-fatal life-threatening injuries, we will have a formal after-action review for this. It'll be in the next week and a half. But until then, I just want to point out some things that we already know, right? Sirens are not our primary warning system in Brown County. We have 3 sirens. One new modern digital siren that covers the town of Nashville down by my office. Then we have an older mechanical system in Cordray Sweetwater. And last year, the commissioners approved taking the broken siren that's been sitting dormant at Al's Garage for several years to actually have that refurbished. And it's been put at the Dean Blossom Tower for a few different reasons. There's not a lot of population around there, right? But siren sounds not like radio signal. Siren sound is heavy and tends to follow terrain. The problem in Brown County and why sirens are not our optimal warning is we have lots of trees and leaves. So that tends to attenuate the sound. So I just like to remind everybody to get a NOAA weather radar. Make sure the batteries are in it. And on Facebook, frequently you'll just see me say, get it out, right? Check the batteries in it, listen to it, make sure it's working. Additionally, you can use apps and devices on your phones. A lot of our storms are occurring at night. So when you get home, and I try and give as much advance warning for severe weather as I can, make sure your devices are charged for night. Local TV services, streaming services are becoming very popular and saving lives across the country. I'm talking about BAM Weather and Ryan Hall Y'all are 2. I cannot recommend services, those are up to you, but I do use BAM Weather and Ryan Hall Y'all. And I have a personal subscription to a weather program called WeatherWise that I'm able to use as well. Both of those systems, BAM and Ryan Hall, truly are saving lives. While I was talking to dispatch because they got the visually observed tornado, I looked up and Ryan Hall at that very moment said, if you're in the Pikes Peak area just east of Nashville, you need to take cover because it wasn't radar indicated yet. He was on it that fast. So it's saving lives. And the last thing I want to say before our official after action, like I said, it's not my first rodeo, maybe my second. The chief of South Brown Volunteer Fire Department is stellar. His actions and activity during the evening of the tornado and then up to this morning, the last chance that I talked to him, his love and compassion for his residents is just amazing. So that's all I have unless there's any questions.
Trees.
Lots. I spoke to one gentleman that lost 800 trees on his property, white oaks. His house is also gone. The devastation is just unbelievable. I may have missed this. The tornado is evaluated as an EF2, but those trees kind of limit that evaluation because the scale itself is based off of damage to structures, damage to metal things and property. So that, I don't want to say limits it to an F2, but the assessment is it's probably greater than an EF2 tornado. The program I mentioned, WeatherWise, the gentleman from Indiana Department of Homeland Security, when he came to set with me to start helping me figure out where to go get our damage assessments, he used that program. When the tornado hits and hits a metal structure, it tosses that debris up in the air. We can see that on the radar. The radar will go low enough to actually see that. So everywhere he saw that, and he's not from Brown County, everywhere he saw when he rewound that, a little spot of debris kicked up, he put a little dot on his map. And then he came in and we walked that on Sunday. It corresponds every time to it. So I think the weather radar system are just amazing helpers. So there's a lot of miracle stories. It's unbelievable. I'd love to sit up here and tell you about some of the miracles that occurred. So
It's just amazing. We had no casualties, it's
no
incredible.
casualties.
So super job by all personnel and volunteers and the community at large. I mean, what a
Yeah,
great-
I'm remiss not to point out, Commissioner, that the DNR handled their situation just expertly. The Horseman's Camp is gonna take a while to get back up, but if you look at the map and you look at the path of this, what's just outside of the Horseman's Camp, and that's primitive camping. I was told that primitive camping was at 100%. That's 800 camping. So again, the blessings are amazing.
Okay. Thank you, Chad. You got a super job.
Thank you, sir.
Great update. That's a great job. Okay, ongoing business. I'll just hit a few of these and you guys can pipe in on some if you want. For one, it's a finance committee update. We had a meeting on May 16th from 9 to 12:30. Got the book. Phenomenal job. We got the data. We closed out final changes of 2024. What's nice is we've got the 2025, so we have the present budget, revenue and expenses. We also have 3 prior years going back to 2022, and then we go 5 years forward on projections of revenue and expenses. That's a lot of data when you're looking at trying to predict, what you're doing from revenue and expenses and savings and that kind of thing. So phenomenal report, probably about a dozen different categories. We touched on the budget bill by the state. They hit the highlights. We really don't know details yet. It's gonna impact us a little. We don't know exactly what that impact's gonna be, but with the information that we have, I think we could adjust and work through it. But we've never had this level of detail before. And so it's a phenomenal start, great foundation. Really looking forward to digging into this. We've got our budget's due July 1, so we'll put all our heads together and we're starting to understand more about the funds. But to give you an idea of what's involved in county finance and budgeting, here in just the book, I'll read the outlines. You've got an executive presentation, and that's the information coming down from the state that gives us guidance on what we're doing. The property tax has been changed a little bit. They're adjusting different things. They threw in an income tax. We're not quite sure how that hits. We rely on high income tax and low property. Don't know exactly how that's going to hit us, but we can think about it. So we got a financial plan. There's cash components, property tax components, major operating funds, capital improvement funds, debt service funds, debt operating funds, other funds. And we got a budget book, a budget summary, and a management report. So a lot of good information. In addition to that, what we're doing that's new this year is we're developing asset management plans on the property that we have, and those drive the capital improvement budgets. So that's kind of new system for us this year. So we're working with that one. And to that point, Kevin did a super job going out and recruiting Dan Carpenter. Is that Cartwright, I'm sorry. Yeah, you should know him. Hoss, right? Little Hoss. Yeah, you guys can pipe in on that one if you like. We've met with them this week, set up an executive session and talked about what we needed and what he could provide. Super qualified, worked with Johnson County, understands county business, understands what we do and what we need and what we have and don't have. So you guys, any highlights on that?
We just take a look at the contract yesterday. It looked like some papers got shuffled, some more information come in.
Okay.
Once we get all that put together, we'll take a look at it, but as far as I'm concerned, it's looking positive.
Right.
Let that range comes up.
Right. I expect that once we go through this and we're good, we should be seeing something in our next meeting.
Yeah, we met with him a couple times. He's pretty personal. Been around a long time, done a lot, been with a lot of different towns and counties and seems to know his way around.
So going to be a great help for us, especially when it comes to the budget. Because again, the assets capital improvement plan impacts how we put our budgets together and our priorities. So that'll be pretty challenging for us. Update on the Indian Hill Road and the railroad reopening. We'll be meeting at NDOT. Barnes Authority did a super job setting up, working to set up a meeting with us. So we're going to have a one-on-one with the director, the commissioner of NDOT, and hand deliver our letter. And that's going to be sometime before mid-June, somewhere around there. We've got a liaison from Governor Braun's office coming to visit us tomorrow. I'll probably sneak him a copy of that letter. Just give him a heads up. So we'll see how that works. So we'll still at it. Try to get that thing reopened as fast as we possibly can. Mountain Tea State Forest, we got a lot of input on that one. Kevin, you want to hit the highlights on where we're at on that?
So basically, since it's been tabled in the last session, we're now going to go back and then re-engage with NDOT and DNR. We're looking at basically setting up a session with them, go through discussions and collect some additional information. And hopefully after we go through and set that session up, we'll get it being back on the agenda and open for public again.
I haven't really talked to anybody out there. I drove out there and it appears there's quite a few people in this room. Is there anybody from that road up there that would like to get up and speak? Is that fair?
Sure, yeah.
I mean, they took the time to come here, and even in the past, we would let the people, speak. They took the time to come in, so let's hear what you got to say, sir.
Hi, I'm Jason. I live on Pumpkin Ridge Road. And I guess I'm not really feeling the whole paved road situation. If 3/4 of a mile is gravel, and it leads to nothing. There's ticks and weeds and snakes, and if people are going out there for that experience, surely they can handle 3/4 of a mile of gravel. I mean, I really don't see a purpose of spending that kind of money for a 2-lane paved road, not to mention I'm directly affected, it's gonna take my land.
Whereabouts you live out there? Are you all the way at the end or
No, in
something?
the beginning of it.
You're at the very beginning.
So we bought a tract of land and we went through the building process about 5 years ago to get away from everything. We had a pretty calm, serene place up there. Now we're considering putting in some 2-lane highway. That goes nowhere. I mean, you have gravel roads that go places, why don't we pave some of those? Instead of paving a dead end one that leads nowhere.
It's state money, it's not our money. It's been explained to us though, that once they do that, I'm not trying to interrupt you on your time. Please feel free to continue, but yeah, I've been out there, I drove it, and it's like, I seen, more no trespassing signs on that road. I've been from coast to coast. I've even been to California. And I've never seen so many no trespassing signs in my life. And to be honest, I'm not no chicken. I'm not afraid to go and talk to somebody. But I was literally going up to all those doors down through there.
Right.
I mean, I respect, your privacy. I'd like to have an in-depth conversation with you.
I really enjoy it being gravel because you can hear the traffic
Right,
creeping down the road, hunting from the road, basically. You can tell what they're doing.
right,
If it's paved, you got a quiet vehicle, you don't even know there's one down there.
yeah. There's not even, there is a place to turn around once you get back there,
Barely.
but it's not much.
I agree that the road needs some work, especially on the latter end of it.
Yeah.
Why did they pick that road, the state?
Don't know, that's why we're basically going back and sitting down and meeting with DNR, because it is basically, it's a project that's being paid out of DNR funding, but NDOT is the one that's been tasked with.
That is a massive undertaking that they're planning.
Yeah.
24-foot wide road. So to get a 24-foot wide road, how far out are they gonna have to go?
Right, and they've already done the survey.
Have they,
They went 200 feet on both sides of the road.
200 feet?
Yeah, so the guy who owns the Fox Run, he's gonna get hosed because they're gonna take him all the way back.
Is that the guy that owns a real nice piece of property on down the hill?
Oh, what Nobby's?
Yeah, I seen a lot of chain link fence and stuff down through there. I told these guys that, guy went to deliver propane out there and he couldn't even deliver propane because of the gate. There was the biggest snake you ever seen.
Yeah. My neighbor has 200 acres, and so he's gonna get hosed a pretty big chunk too.
Let me get you to re-say that. It's 200 feet wide you're taking,
That's what they surveyed.
or 200 feet on both sides?
They surveyed 200 feet on both sides.
Each lane will probably be 100 feet, but
Wow.
Well, that's why they're coming down. They're bringing a crew down and explain that. We got a lot of concerns by citizens. We got a long laundry list of going through and we'll have additional meetings for them to explain and make the case and hear the input from the citizens as well. So it's not gonna be done in a vacuum. We'll have as many meetings as we.
Chad actually hit on something, the EMA guy. That's you. How you doing, sir? There is something about Hoover Road. And I actually had a conversation with him, I don't know how long ago, 2 years ago maybe, about the water that comes off that hill. The water that comes off that hill on the south side, it gets massive. I mean, I've heard of 15, 20-foot walls of water coming down through there and people dying. So when they go up in there, they're gonna be gouging and changing the water and everything, and it's a mass
There is
undertaking.
no county water, so everybody has their own water system. We have a well.
That's what somebody told me. He said Brown County stops somewhere down on the other side, and then is it Bartholomew Water stops? And so you guys either have to haul water or whatever to even live out there. I get it. That's, I asked the tables because I wanted to hear from you, and I'm up here just talking. I'd rather hear from the people, to be honest.
Okay. Thank you, appreciate it.
But thanks for hearing.
Anybody else on Mountain Chief? Okay, more to come. Kevin, anything on the list you want to highlight, or we?
So the only thing that basically looking forward is right now the council districts required boundary changes because of the deviations that we have. So, target was supposed to be the beginning of June submission. The proposals have the maps as far as themselves, and the resolutions and the district information has gone to the Indiana Election Board. And they're in the process of reviewing the content of that information to make sure that we are providing enough information to make the adjustments and changes when we go and pass the ordinance and the resolutions related to those things. So the expectation is within a couple of weeks, they'll have information fed back to us as to whether the content that we've given them is adequate to fulfill the obligations needed to correctly identify the voters and who's impacted.
What about the pickleball court or discussion on town? Got anything there?
The town thing has basically been very initial, nothing major there yet. There's been a request to look at some testing on the building itself as far as air quality.
Okay.
And then as far as the MOU and the MOA, those documents are completed. They have been approved by Mike. We got one minor grammar change and one minor correction with regards to spelling on can't remember if it's MOU or MOA to go forward with that. As far as getting those things in front of those, and actually if the pickleball club's going to be the ones that will be signing both of these. My expectation is once we get those things changed and we get a real nod of the head from Mike Moga, we will go and put those in front of the pickleball club. And then once they get those signed and approved, they'll bring them back before here for our review and approval.
Pardon?
There's just a lot of people here, and I always, I'm optioning. Anybody else? Is there anybody else have anything else they want to say? Now's your opportunity.
I had a question for Mr. Jenkins.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
That's that guy back here. Come to the mic, please.
Those resources that you listed, are they going, like, are they mostly just Monday through Friday? I know you said till 7 PM, but we live on Grandview Road and we lost our roof. And I know we were hoping to work on it. We finally got the wood to get it, but it's exposed pretty bad, you know. But the county employee was denied a personal day tomorrow to be able to use that, so I'm
We
confused.
can't discuss that at this meeting, Christine.
Well, my question for Mr. Jenkins,
Yes.
you know, is there anything available like this Friday or through the weekend for resources? Cause you know, if people are gonna help you, you kind of want to be there, but like if you can't get off work to be there, you know, it's an issue. So
Indiana 211 is where you'll register your damage. That starts the declaration process that may follow for individual assistance. You can also, that's available online as well. Just Google IN 211. Local resources are helps for you. So again, if you need tarps, Red Cross has been bringing tarps, and I'm aware that they'll be bringing more tarps to South Brown Fire Department tomorrow.
Chief Miller was out like the next morning, so nice. and they put our number on their clipboard, so I don't know what to come of that, but we could always call them and do that.
Thanks, Chad. Thanks for the additional information. Thank you,
So
Christine.
we'll call them, and I put that other number in.
Very good. Don't match somebody.
One last item, folks. We're working on a comprehensive plan, update the comprehensive plan. Had a short time frame last year. I think we had like around $37,000. 26 of that had to be spent by the end of the year. We had one public meeting, two meetings on one day. Had a survey that we sent out and did a comprehensive plan, updated some data. Part of that plan includes a lot of information about economic development strategic plan or some kind of economic plan. And so we kind of tasked the RDC to take a look at the economic side of that and to see those alignments. And so they're working on a plan, a kind of a community engagement survey where we can expand that and get more input and take the time to make sure that everyone has a voice in this county on that comprehensive plan, because that drives zoning and it drives your decisions and prevents a lot of drama when it comes to zoning and zoning changes. So we're re-engineering that whole process, and the RDC's got a big lead on that. So I'll probably have them do a presentation within the next meeting or two to give everybody an update on kind of where they're headed and what you can expect from that. So from that, that's all I have. Guys, anything?
And one thing for Mr. Moda.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, Mike,
Anything from you, Mike?
Nothing to add. Thanks.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
And meeting closed.
It turns out.